If you've got good taste, then you already know the Sonic trilogy is hands down the best video game movie series of all time. But did you know that the fourth film featuring the fastest blue hedgehog in the universe might just bring one of the biggest plot twists in movie history?
What? Who are you?
The post-credits scene from Sonic 3 revealed that both Metal Sonic and Amy Rose are set to appear in the next movie. But let's be real, if you watch that scene closely, you'll realize it raises way more questions than it answers. Like, why did Metal Sonic attack Sonic? Where did he come from? The future, another dimension, another planet? And what about Amy? Did she come from the same place? All of these are wild questions, but the most dangerous one, the one most fans haven't even considered, is this: did Amy Rose actually save Sonic? Or is she part of something much bigger and darker? That's exactly the theory that many fans believe Sonic 4 will explore. The idea is that Amy is secretly allied with Metal Sonic and that she destroyed those worthless clones just to gain Sonic's trust. The Blue Hedgehog is actually the key piece in a massive plot that involves completely destroyed dystopian kingdoms and a ruined Earth, the very place Amy came from, since she's not from this timeline at all. She's actually from a devastated alternate future where the Chaos Emeralds triggered a cosmic-level disaster, accidentally tearing apart continents and collapsing entire dimensions. And somehow, it all ties back to Sonic, which led many in that future, including Amy herself, to believe he was the cause of the apocalyptic world they now live in. In that broken future, Metal Sonic was built by Amy, using the forgotten tech of an ancient scientist named Robotnik. He was her last hope to go back in time and prevent that disaster. Amy's plan is both simple and painful: stop this version of Sonic before he gains ultimate power. Of course, this is just the starting point of a story filled with rage and, of course, love, bringing together Team Sonic and introducing a bunch of new characters at the beginning of a brand new trilogy. Want to know everything about it? Buckle up. This might just blow your mind. Picking up from this complex theory in Sonic 4, Amy, now integrated into the world we know, is introduced by Sonic to the rest of his family. Of course, Knuckles is suspicious right away, but he's the only one because Sonic is convinced the beautiful pink hedgehog who saved him has to be a good person. Amy tells them her tragic backstory of loneliness, conveniently leaving out some details, and earns everyone's sympathy. She becomes part of Sonic's family and begins spending time with the very hedgehog she believed was responsible for her ruined future, only to find he's nothing like the monster she'd heard about. Instead, this Sonic is innocent, kind-hearted, and goofy, a far cry from the destroyer described in her timeline. And worst of all, she starts to fall for him, and he falls for her too. This new relationship throws Amy into an impossible dilemma: stick to her original mission, take Sonic down to save the future, or risk everything by believing in a new path where he resists the corruption of the Emeralds. Things get even more tense when Tails and Knuckles uncover the truth about Amy and demand answers. Sonic, caught between love and duty, chooses to trust her, even though the threat of Metal Sonic is still very real. Metal returns, stronger than before, now bringing even more clones to finish the job Amy was clearly taking too long to complete. Meanwhile, Tails and Knuckles break away from their friend, convinced something far darker is going on behind the scenes. So they set out on their own to uncover the truth. But if Metal Sonic was programmed by Amy, how could he decide on his own to travel to the future and carry out the mission? The answer lies in the origins of the project. As we mentioned, Amy and her allies from the future built the robot based on a design by someone called Dr. Robotnik, which they discovered in a centuries-old abandoned lab. I can totally picture a skeleton of Agent Stone lying in the corner of that lab, clutching a little Robotnik figure. Anyway, the key point is, when Amy's team used Eggman's lab, they ended up finding an AI that had been stored there, a system made to help operate and control the newly built Metal Sonic. And this artificial intelligence is the one that decides to send out a fleet of Metal Sonic units to finally destroy Sonic, but not before stealing his power first. Sound familiar? Exactly. You're thinking what I'm thinking. This AI is none other than a perfect digital backup of Robotnik's consciousness, his way of living on after death and eventually carrying out his evil master plan to completely absorb Sonic's power, which we all know has always been his main goal. In fact, the entire Metal Sonic project was based on Sonic's quills, which Eggman either collected throughout the 3 movies or simply found, like in the first film. The truth is, while Amy believed she was using Metal Sonic to pursue her goals, it was actually the other way around. He was using her. And here's the real kicker: that same Metal Sonic, or more specifically, a previous version of Metal Sonic from the past, was actually the one who destroyed planet Earth after finally defeating Sonic and absorbing the Chaos Emerald's power. But because he wasn't a living, organic being, the absorption caused a chain reaction that led to utter devastation and the chaotic future we see. So, bottom line, Amy truly believed she was doing the right thing. But in reality, everything had been part of a twisted scheme by Eggman to once again seize the power of the Chaos Emeralds. Back to the moment when Tails and Knuckles go searching for answers and solutions. They make their way to Eggman's present-day lab and discover a secret chamber containing the Metal Sonic project, which was about to activate thanks to a countdown set up by Robotnik himself. He had programmed it just in case. If he didn't return to the lab after a long time, it would mean he was dead, which, as we saw at the end of Sonic 3, is exactly what happened. That way, Metal Sonic would become the continuation of his evil plan, powered by Robotnik's mind and driven by the energy from Sonic's own quills, used as the robotic villain's battery core. Because Tails and Knuckles arrived just a second too late, they couldn't stop the activation of the evil metal version of Sonic, and after a brief fight, the villain defeats them. But just as he's about to land the final blow on Sonic's two friends, another character who we saw survive at the end of Sonic 3 shows up, Shadow. With one powerful punch, Shadow rips out the robot's power cell, instantly shutting down both the machine and the AI. Together with the injured Tails and Knuckles, the three rush to find Sonic and tell him what they've discovered. But by the time they arrive at Green Hill, it's already too late. The Metal Sonic army is there, and they have one mission: wipe out everything and everyone. The Sonic 4 story is far from over. But before we go on, if you love movies, shows, and animated series, go ahead and smash that subscribe button. In the final battle, Metal Sonic ultimately manages to defeat Shadow, Amy, and Sonic after a brutal showdown, and he seizes the Chaos Emeralds. But when the villain absorbs part of the Emerald's power, he undergoes an uncontrollable mutation, becoming a threat capable of destroying the entire multiverse. Amy realizes everything has spiraled out of control, and upon hearing from Shadow that the only way to stop the villain is to destroy his power core, she sacrifices herself to prevent a dimensional collapse. She strikes Metal Sonic's only weak spot using her Pico Pico hammer, her superpowered weapon. With the last bit of energy from her time bracelet, or maybe some other mystical artifact from the future, she merges with Metal Sonic or drags him into a dimensional rift, saving everyone, even Sonic. But from afar, the others witness a massive explosion, and everyone, including Amy, seems to be consumed by the devastating blast. Sonic rushes to the epicenter, but all that remains is Amy's hair ribbon. In tears, he vows never to let the world go down the same dark path she came from. Needless to say, after that nearly tragic ending, Sonic is completely shattered. Months later, the whole crew is gathered for a very special reason. For the first time ever, they're celebrating Shadow's birthday, something that hadn't happened since Maria threw him a party decades ago. Noticing Sonic's sadness, his adoptive parents and friends gently remind him that everything they did, including stopping the present-day Metal Sonic, means Amy's dark future would never come to pass. That timeline no longer exists. In this new reality, Amy is safe, and she never had to come back to the past or be manipulated by Metal Sonic. That thought brings Sonic a bit of peace. But as he looks down at Amy's ribbon in his hand, he still can't help but wish to see her again. We are then taken to a calm, peaceful alternate universe. In a hidden lab far in the future, a cryogenic pod slowly opens. Inside, Amy is in a deep cryo-sleep. From the shadows, the silhouette of a mysterious figure appears. Blurry and obscured, a deep male voice calmly says, "You were never meant to die." Not yet. Amy tries to make out who it is, but the figure is already gone. Then, a robotic voice speaks as the capsule's glass opens. Temporal sequence stabilized, dimension secured. Welcome back, Amy. She steps outside the lab. The sun rises in the distance, and Amy gazes toward the horizon. Sonic, we'll meet again. But who was that voice that said Amy wasn't meant to die? This might be the wildest theory of them all, but it needs to be told. As we've seen with the other Sonic movies, each post-credits scene introduces a new character for the next film, and the fourth movie wouldn't be any different. This time we see one of the most powerful beings in the entire Sonic universe, Silver. Even crazier, we learn that Amy only survived because of the intervention of the Silver Hedgehog with telekinetic powers. The post-credits scene zooms in on a second hair ribbon of Amy lying on the ground. Everyone believes she was either disintegrated or trapped forever in the dimensional void with Metal Sonic. But then we're taken back to the other side of the portal, right before Amy delivers her final strike to Metal Sonic's power cell. And for a split second, through the distortion of light and sound, a glowing white silhouette watches from afar, its eyes shining bright green. A hand subtly reaches out, and time seems to slow. We then clearly see Silver's face. Using his psychic powers, he opens a micro rift between dimensions just milliseconds before the full collapse. Right as Amy is being sucked into oblivion, he redirects her using an invisible telekinetic shield, pushing her into a temporal safe zone between dimensions, where time flows differently and Amy remains unconscious, but alive. Next, we see Silver gently place her inside the cryo recovery pod, the same one we saw her emerge from at the end of the movie. Then, he opens his hand, and inside it is a photo of Sonic and Amy hugging. He flips it over, and on the back we see the words, "Mom and Dad." Amy stirs slightly, and Silver vanishes, leaving behind a glowing trail of green light, the color of his power. Now come on, wouldn't that make for an insanely epic plot for Sonic 4? Absolutely, that's where we wrap up. But if you're just as obsessed with everything pop culture as we are, check out either of these two videos we've left on your screen. Click on either one, you're gonna love it for sure.